Go ahead and call us to order.
It's 5:43.
We've got Ron,
You're in the doghouse anyway.
Mary's, right? Mary, remote, Deb, Jason,
You go to Florida?
Paula.
I know.
Paula thought it was next week. No, not Paula. Laura thought it was next week. She's on her way.
Yeah, I heard it was good. So glad that's over.
Approval of
It's
minutes,
sport too.
It's the
We
most
opened
expensive
that.
sport in the world.
6:05.
I don't even know how much we spent this year. Talking about cheerleading, like,
A motion to approve the minutes.
you guys start. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're starting.
Yeah, we're starting. 6:05. We have Ron, Deb, Mary, Jason, Paula is non-voting, and Mark Conner here. Approval of minutes. Anybody want to give an approval of minutes?
A motion, approve.
I'll
Jason
second.
And Ron. Anybody requesting time and correspondence?
Okay. Oh, you sure? Okay, it's up to you guys. Okay.
Director's report.
So I just wanted to share some information. We have a lot of projects going on, but there's been a lot of questions about trails up in Fairview. So I put this together for the Board of Commissioners and wanted to share with you guys too. If you get any questions about the trails, just to kind of explain what projects are going on, the funding we have, and all that. So as you can see, this is a map of the Fairview trails. It's going to be kind of broken down into two separate projects because of our funding sources. So we got $800,000 from Southwestern PA Commission, and it has to be designed to PennDOT standards, and $100,000 from DCD Multimodal. And both those fundings is only specifically for along the road through Fairview. So if you look on here, you kind of see I can kind of, I don't know if I can zoom in, but it will say Main Trail, and it's along the Recreation Road, so pretty much from the Lafayette Pavilion all the way up to kind of the splash pad. Like I said, it's because we have to do it to PennDOT standards. A lot of it has to go into like the bid documents and things like that. So that's one project. We're about 60% through the design phase for that, working with Gibson Thomas, who's kind of working and putting the whole PennDOT bid package together. So then the second part of the project is kind of our like nature trails, more recreational trails, and those are all the paved loop trail on this map, the limestone nature trail, and the wooded nature trail. So all the DCNR funding is going to go towards that, along with again continuing from the splash pad kind of down to Mayview Road. That section could not be part of PennDOT because it's not to ADA standard. So that's why it's not part of the, the kind of the timeline for the two projects. Now, let me rephrase, the DCNR grant, even though it's kind of going just for the nature trails, our TASA funding is our match for our DCNR, but we do have to kind of bid them separate. So kind of this is the timeline that we're looking for both of them. Potential for the nature trails to go to bid later this year and start early spring, and then kind of early spring starting construction on the main trail. Does that kind of all make sense? It's just kind of the way it has to go because of our funding sources. Yep. Any questions on any of that?
Just some add-in for the nature trails. I have some contacts within Trail Pittsburgh that are happy to
Sounds good.
come up with that.
Sounds
And
good.
I was down at OTB a couple weeks ago, and I saw a bunch of kids using the trail too. So,
Yeah.
a lot of kids, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. So hopefully by like next summer, fall, everything will be complete, and at completion, it would be about 5 miles of trails and sidewalks through the park, from one entrance to the other, and from other points through the woods and things like that. So you'll see little flags in Fairview. That was because the engineers mapped it out and we kind of locked it of all the different kinds of where they would go.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of separate from the trails, we also have, we put our grant application in this year for additional DCNR funding, and that is to fund a trailhead across from OTB. So you can kind of see, this was a drawing that was in the Township Comprehensive Plan. So that application is pending. We probably won't get award until later this year, and then you have to wait for a contract. So that probably won't be started until late 2026, 2027 for the trailhead. We did just get awarded, though, about $40,000 from the county for design work. And that is for pedestrian improvements on Mayview Road. So the improvements would be putting a crosswalk from OTB to the proposed trailhead that I just mentioned, and then whatever PennDOT would allow us to do pedestrian enhancement from OTB to the Upper St. Clair perimeter trail, which is kind of at the end of that little red mark. So that funding is approved, and Gibson Thomas has been tasked to start that coordination with PennDOT, and we have to do the railroad company because you're crossing a railroad track. So that coordination is pretty much, working with PennDOT to see what's allowed and feasible to do along that road. So that's just for the design. So once Gibson Thomas works it out and we kind of have a plan in place, we can go for more funding or just plan for capital. But the planning is in the process. Does that all make sense? Okay. Here's some pictures. So right now, this is where the trailhead would go, and that would be a connection to the Fairview trails. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we also got funding to pave the Panhandle Trail. So Gibson Thomas has been tasked with putting together bid documents, also with kind of getting a cost estimate breakdown so there's the Panhandle Trail goes from South Fayette into Oakdale, back into South Fayette, into North Fayette, and back into South Fayette. So we're kind of getting a cost estimate of like what that cost, those sections, what the cost those would be, and then we want to go talk to both Oakdale and North Fayette, because it does make sense to do it all at one time, but to see if we can partner on any of that. We put in for a lot more than $130,000, but that's all we got. So, based on Gibson Thomas is what they designed, we can see how much everything's going to be, if we can do it all at one time. Hoping it's a pretty, simple project, just going and paving. So we're hoping to do, get some bid package together and go to bid later this summer, fall. Any questions on that? Okay.
All right.
For my director's report, we are planning to open the splash pad Memorial Day weekend. We hired 4 park attendants. Over the next 3 weeks, I have a bunch of trainings to do with them, bringing them in. They got CPR certified last night. We have some in the office training, and then up at the splash pad and concession stand training. 4, yeah. Yep. So that's our target date to open by Memorial Day weekend. We have our Pet Expo coming up next Thursday up in Fairview Park. All are welcome. And we had our pre-construction meeting for the ball fields up at Fairview. The contractor will be mobilizing next week and then start moving earth the week of May 19th. We know we're going to get some complaints this summer. With the construction going on right next to the pavilion and splash pad, we know they're going to probably complain about dust and noise. We were hoping this project would be done by now. We're supposed to start in November and just delays. So that's kind of where we're just telling people, like, we know the inconvenience. Unfortunately, we had delays that were out of our control. So that's kind of all I have.
Hey, Paul, I just have a question, if you don't mind. Around the Boys Home Park, I know about a year ago or so, we talked about adding some trails there. Any updates there? Or Any progress on that?
No, I haven't. I have not.
Because you've been, I know Fairview has been the hone-in focus, which is amazing. So.
Yeah. In the Parks Master Plan, the trails I think that you're talking about are up through like the farm preserve, connecting up to preservation.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, no design work.
Because it was
no,
talked about a little bit.
Yeah, nothing has been done with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the Fairview trails, the 5 miles, is that for hiking only or also mountain biking? Is it like,
I'll jump in right there.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to keep mountain bikes or bikers off of it.
I was just
Correct.
curious, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
if it's
Yeah.
a hiking trail, like people are going to
Yeah.
ride bikes on it. Kids
Okay.
are going to ride bikes on it. So, and
Okay.
it's only going to help. Honestly, it helps the trail.
Oh,
more
yeah,
than
it should be
anything.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
you obviously see them. I was just
Right.
curious on
As long as the
We're not-
drainage is built right, as long as the trail pitches the correct way,
Okay.
down the hill, so the water doesn't stay on it. But yeah, you can
Yeah.
get,
Okay,
Yeah, we're not going to not say that they're not allowed. And
okay. Just curious.
yeah. Wingfield Pines is a no bike. It was a forbidden zone for bicycles for the longest time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Nobody,
No one, I just like, yeah.
nobody enforces
Who's
it.
down there
'cause-
policing it?
Yeah, you can't enforce it because the bike is going to be faster than a
Yeah.
pedestrian in a situation like that. But,
Okay.
yeah. And then when it comes to the seminary trails or boys' home to seminary trails, again, let me know. Like I said, happy to
Yep.
engage.
That's something that maybe when it
Trail
comes to budget time that we can budget for. I don't think it will take a lot because we are restricted of what type of trails we're able to do through there because it is a farm preserve. So I don't even know if we're allowed to do paved trails. It might have to be nature slash
Mulch, like you do like that.
not mulch, but like natural service. Like
Gotcha.
probably could do crushed limestone.
Okay.
So I don't think a lot of funding would be needed for that. It would be more of like the design and mapping it out kind of thing. So that's something we can maybe budget for.
Yeah, that's definitely something to talk about because I do think it'd be nice to have something on that side, right, of South Fayette.
Yeah.
As you know, we're kind of
Yeah.
separated. So I think that'd be nice on that side of South Fayette to have a trail system and even, limestone, how about like wood chips? Can you guys do wood chips too? Are those real expensive?
Real high maintenance.
Are they high maintenance and they probably wash off too with the rain?
They also stay damp.
Oh, you're
They
right.
just
Yeah.
kind of then
It just makes a mess of it. And then, in terms of that property up there, I think that's owned by Fred Cardillo. Isn't it like
He-
close? He's got some of that.
He doesn't own it. He farms it off of. Like, he leases it off of us.
Oh, he
off
does.
the township.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Okay, I
it
didn't
is
know that.
township
Okay.
property. It's protected through a farm preserve.
Oh, cool.
So there's deed restrictions on what's allowed to be. Like we couldn't do any restrooms. We can't do any like permanent buildings. But trails are allowed.
Okay.
Okay. Paula, is there a standard width for the trails that are just everywhere? I'm not talking just South Fayette, but is there a standard width or have you designated a width for these trails?
Oh, the doors are locked. Get some letter in. So it depends on
Sure.
what the purpose of the trail is. So through Fairview, the main trail along the road is actually going to be 10 feet wide because we're considering it multimodal. So that's going to be a nice width to allow for like a two-way traffic. So like a family with a stroller and then a bike can get by two ways very safely. The other trails through Fairview are probably going to be about only 6 feet wide because those are more for recreational purposes. So like to answer your question, it depends on what the purpose of the trail is. That determines the width.
Okay. So for recreational purposes, are you saying walking and biking and various activities, or is it going to be specific?
Well, I guess I don't know what you're
All
what
the
you're
above?
asking.
Well,
Yeah,
what
all
I'm
the above.
asking is,
Yeah.
You said 6 feet, and is that going to be enough of an allowance with bikes and people? And I'm just trying to think and envision what this is going to look like.
it has to be
There
enough.
is a hazard component.
Yeah, you just like on the smaller trails, you might have to move to passing. Just like the Panhandle Trail, I don't know the width of it right now, but the reason we picked 10 feet for along the road is because like during events, you see families walking in like a chain across, and you have people going two ways. So the 10 feet is wide enough so you're not having to step out of the way for like multimodal traffic. Now your recreational trails, like Jason said, you'll just have to you'll move out of the way, or just your bike etiquette, like passing on your right, or things like that.
Okay, thank you.
In some areas through the woods, though, might be smaller, like 4, because I know through the dog park, some areas we did it based on like the topo and the trees. So if there was a path like between trees, it was only maybe 3.5 feet, but then it opened back up to your 4 feet, or So I think through our nature trails, our goal is to not be as disruptive. Yeah,
Varies a great deal on the Montour Trail.
yeah.
And I just have one more question. I'm sorry. Because I was down at the Boys Home Park, I was down there putzing around a couple weeks ago, looking around. But that field, as you come down through that neighborhood, you come down the hill, and it's the new park structure on the left, it's the playground, so to speak, on the left. There's that field on the right that looks like it maybe some way, somehow, if we can move a lot of dirt around, you could make that almost like a full-length field. Is that possible? You know what
So
I'm
we
talking about?
looked at that. That's
Yeah.
very marshy.
Is
the
it?
more you go
Okay.
kind of towards the
At the corner of it?
Yeah, because we were going to try to fit like a cricket field there.
Yeah, like
that
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is utilized. So right now we have like our younger lacrosse players down there.
Oh, good, okay.
Like the Termites football practice down there. So we do utilize it as like an annex practice
Okay.
field. Yeah, but I don't think we can make
It's
it.
not big enough to be a full-length turf
No,
field.
and
or
we had to do
down the
some
road.
riverbank restoration from when we were trying to put a public work, like a salt building
yeah, I
back
remember,
there. Yeah, so we're kind of limited how much we can do down there.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to old business. Want to do 515 first?
Sure. We had. Do you guys want to? You guys were there. Do you want to give an update on it?
Yeah, so there was a meeting, it was a couple weeks ago, about 515, doing some rehabilitation to that building. The library was present, nobody from the seniors were present, but a lot of talk about rehabbing the building so that it's a little more modular, so it could be used by multiple groups. Probably give the seniors a dedicated area, I think, and then the library having an expansion of their area, and then some programming space allotted for Parks and Rec, but not a lot of not a lot of room for call it recreational space.
And then I think an email was sent to you guys. If not, I'll have to forward it. That we're having a meeting next. I think Thursday. I'll have to get the specific date for you, where the architects will have a like a schematic floor plan concept to present. It's at 4 p.m., but I forget the date. I think May 13th. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's it.
All right. And then want to go to community center update. So I invited commissioners to our meeting next month in June to talk about putting something on the, call it roadmap or idea map for let's call it more of a recreational facility as opposed to a community center. I think at this point we have a community center, we have a municipal building. So if we change the focus as a recreational facility, I think that will provide the purpose and the objective that we're trying to go for there. So
Great.
yeah.
So I guess I have a question, if you don't mind. So are you guys thinking more like a South Point type field house where you walk in? If you remember the South Point field house, they had you could walk in. It was like a sitting area. You could get some food, nothing crazy, maybe some hot dogs and cold stuff, and then they had a gym on the right. And there was a giant field house that would go straight back with some simple bathrooms. Yes, it's called the South Point Field House. It's actually torn down now because, what's that? I think that's the new one that just got done, but it's something similar to that. Yeah, it was the past one that was torn down after they redid 576. You guys remember that field house that was on the left-hand side if you're going to Washington, PA? That had to get torn down because of the highway going through there. But I didn't know that's something you guys are thinking of in your discussions? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
rec?
more like a dedicated recreational space, correct? Right. So
Like multi-use
once we have
indoor facility?
once we have the shell of a building or of a facility, we can parse that out, appropriately for weight room space or exercise space, probably an indoor track around field, or courts or field, whatever's on the inside of it, but
Yeah.
yeah. But obviously, the decision on what goes within that would be farther down the road. But I think for the most part, the board's looking for, some sort of long-term plan or some sort of plan from the community to build a dedicated facility like that. 'Cause we realize we're not going to get much out of the 515 facility at this
Well, no, I mean, it's understandable. I think 515 was meant really because it's obviously it's cost effective there because the building's there, right? It's the foundation's there. It's not digging up dirt, not doing all that kind of stuff, which is very expensive these days. But it's rehabbing what we have. We could probably do that for $2.5 million. It's 11,000 square feet, which would take care of the seniors, have a brand new senior center. It would take care of obviously the library, and then something smaller in the middle for programming. It's not going to be much. I totally get it. I mean, we want nothing more, and I'm speaking for the board, to have some type of facility in the future. I think the cost up here, it was the original plan was 30-some million, and then if you remember, like we cut it down to 20 to 25 million, probably closer to 25 now with inflation, everything that's going on, if not 30. It's crazy what things are costing right now. But I think that it could be affordable at some point, especially if we have the land, to do just like a South Point Fieldhouse type structure. Indoor track, and indoor facility that could be used for soccer, baseball, lacrosse. I mean, you pretty much name it, right? That can be used inside with something, a simple gym. I think our thoughts were, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that in terms of having a large gym in South Fayette, there's so many gyms everywhere. I mean, I can join LA Fitness for $19, right? There's a lot of gym space, so we probably wouldn't want to focus our attention on gym. I think that's all. That's not just up to us. It's the community, but it's more about that indoor space that is lacking, that we need for programming different things. And the cost of that would probably be half of what it costs to have a full-blown building. As we all know, we've seen the cost of that. So, and I've talked to a couple of developers. You're looking between maybe $12 to $14 million to do it.
When you say gym, do you mean like gymnasium or like gym exercise equipment?
So, wait, I'm sorry, which question?
When you say gym, do you mean like a gymnasium, like a basketball court, or do you
I
mean
was
like
thinking
gym
like,
equipment?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking like exercise.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
fitness equipment, it'd probably have to be smaller because we just feel that there's so many opportunities around South Fayette where you can join gyms. So it would be hard for us to compete against those gyms at $19 a month, $12.99, and they get these giant gyms, right? So I think this would more be for programming an indoor facility for children and sports in the township. And then if it's not being used by South Fayette, and tell me if I'm wrong, if it's not being used by the township or by programming, and then it could be leased out, on a Saturday at 2 p.m. where, I don't know, you can make money off it. I don't know. It can be a profit center as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that I know I'm excited about. Unfortunately, the cost of the South Fayette Community Center was just overbearing with the cost we took with the garbage. With the tax increase we had at 25%, that is just going to cover the garbage. So you know that. It doesn't cover anything else, unfortunately. But, we're hoping rates come down. In terms of bond rates come down. The bond rates have doubled, since 2020, 21. So if the bond rates can come down a little bit and we can afford it.
We can still, it's still on the
radar.
table, that USDA loan
Is
and
it?
that rate. Mhm.
Okay.
We just withdrew our application and it didn't, I asked that it make sure it wouldn't like hurt us, and
Okay.
it doesn't. So it's still an option. As for would go in there, I would just say we go back to, our surveys, what were the highest number of amenities needed, like wanted, and I think multi-purpose in anything that we do, as always, where, original plan had it was nice to have specific rooms, but, be as multi-purpose as possible. And I think, a big open, just at that Miller's Run Road meeting, they're like, oh, will this space be used for events? Our events are so high attendance that we just need a space to
No, I understand.
fit that attendance. So whatever we do is that's the main goal, is a facility that can handle our our population, is the target, I think, that we're shooting for.
No, 100%. And, as a board, I didn't know whether or not you guys are still thinking up here.
We have the
And
land.
we had the land. I don't know, for some type of large warehouse facility, like a pool building type facility, and it's right next door. something like that could be great.
I think having it there too, you'll be, able to share the resources, and we already have like the utilities that's able to handle that, and things like that.
No, I totally get it. It's just, just so you understand, with the library and the senior center, it just made sense financially just to clean that up from a cost perspective. I mean, with the fact we can do that building for $2.5 million, and it takes care of both those needs, is huge. There's a bond out there. It's public. There's a bond. We have to spend about $10 million total. So of the 10 million, but probably about 2.5 will go to that. And then with Public Works, needs some more equipment, and we're looking to rehab that building. We don't know what that's going to cost. And then we have leftover money, and then from there we can figure it out. But we're hoping with this new commercial, obviously things going on down there, hopefully work out. In Newbury Market, we're going to have some more revenues coming in down the road, a nice revenue stream, which will help us as, we project out, but we understand.
No,
We hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
My
Yes.
question, hang on a second, Mary.
Hold on, Mary.
My question specifically is
You
what,
can let go.
question specifically is what are we supposed to tell our community members that have been asking for this for 20 years? And so what I'm looking at is we took too big of a hit from Waste Management's increased fees, and the cost was just too high for what we were going to get. We have the space, we're looking for a long-term plan, and we're looking to bring in new revenue to help support this new plan. That's what I'm going to tell the people.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Could I follow up?
Also, if I'm following all of this, it sounds like you're promoting this as a recreational facility. And so we should be thinking of it in those terms, because you're kind of designating the other building for the library and for senior citizens and for some of our parks and recreation needs. So is that the way we should be thinking about this? That it is a recreational facility, and that's what you are thinking along those lines?
I would say yes, and if people want an example, and tell me if I'm wrong, but very similar to kind of Upper St. Clair, what they did. It's the rec center, but then they had the police station, and they have the library, some outdoor facilities, and I believe the senior center's over there as well. I haven't been in there, but I think it's over there. It's definitely not over at this space here. So it's somewhat similar to St. Clair, is kind of splitting out the senior center and the library from sports and rec.
I-
That's along McLaughlin Run Road, yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep. It's the police and with the libraries behind it. And then I believe the senior center's on the left.
It's about just very close to that, but it's not attached.
Okay, it's not attached. Okay, but it's the same area, the same.
Yes,
Same
it
property.
is, definitely.
Okay.
I would just, I don't know if, we're, leaning towards calling down Miller's Run Road as a community center, because, yes, the library there and the seniors there, but, in a little bit of programming space, but I think, the library is going to want to continue to grow, and the senior center might continue to grow, and I'd be concerned that we eventually get pushed out. So if we are leaning towards just a community or a recreation center, then we're kind of, and it's like a play on words, like what
It's
does that
wording.
really
We have to
mean?
figure out the-
I think even at whatever building we do, I think we still need some rooms, whether they're fancy like this, no, but I think there still needs to be rooms that can be that community component, not just, I have heard the complaints that, our parks, we're expanding our fields and things, and we need it because our youth population's growing. But I think, if we call it just a, recreation, it's, not accommodating those that don't recreate, if that makes sense. So those are just my concerns of calling the two things, and,
So it's like space for meetings.
and like a
is what you
community
mean? Like-
center, you have the concept of, the concept is typically a place you can drop in and hang out. And yes, you can drop in and hang out at the library, but at the other half, you're not gonna be able to. It's gonna be under, just strictly for programming, or if you're using it. So just those, those plays on words kind of gets a little bit tricky when what's the, the overall. So yes, will the building have majority sports and physical? Yes, but I think we also need to keep in mind that we probably want to have some elements in there that's it's community.
Oh, in terms of programming, what
Yeah.
have you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was even thinking maybe like a small coffee shop or something in there when you walk in, if there's room. That you can, kind of like a lounge area, you can hang out with chairs and different things. I don't know. Yeah.
How, okay.
She had it right.
Oh, it was on, yeah, I know,
Just
it is
hit
confusing.
one time so it's
You think
red.
red is no.
Yeah.
Red is yes.
Now you let go. You let go. Let go. There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Having been here almost 25 years, how can we make this different from all the plans that have been, I know you weren't there then, yeah, but plans for a community center or a rec center?
I think what we're asking for is it possible to have the board start like a plan, like an actual like plan, or have some planning or somebody design a shell, right? And kind of start that process.
And people are asking me that question in our neighborhood, at the dog park, at Boyce Mayview, walking dogs, you know, it's like, what's going on here? Why? What? And I know there's money problems, but what can we do going forward, and how can we help?
Well, that's a great question. So it starts with a plan, I believe, right? We have to have a 3-year plan. I think having some basic drawings of facility, hopefully it won't cost in terms of the cost of the drawings, hopefully it's not going to be extraordinary, because it'd be more of a simple building. And then from there, find out what the cost is going to be, and then back those costs into our budget to see what we can afford, and on whether or not we have to look at some different options to make it affordable. But I think, hopefully that answers your question. But going back, we were really excited about this project, but once we looked at the numbers, it was just not going to be feasible. I mean, I think we were going to have a 64% tax increase just to afford that, right? So it just wasn't in the cards. Trust me, we just would have loved to have done it, but I think my house probably would have burned down, and so I would have been in a lot of trouble.
And for like plans, there was no money allocated this year for any design costs. So is that something that's not going to take off until next year when we budget for, or is it something that the board's kind of on board to start something this year? Because for past couple of years, there was funding set aside for planning, and all funding was removed from the budget for any even plans. So kind of what's
That's a great question. There's a board meeting next Wednesday. We meet before, and I'd like to bring that up then. I think the goal would be is take the existing plans, which would save us money not starting over, taking the existing plans for up here and just making those appropriate changes. The concept of more just, it's more warehouse type building for strictly recreation, taking the library out, which would, drive down square footage, taking down the senior center, which would drive down square footage. And, really looking at a basic type structure. And then from there, if it makes sense to build off of that, we can do that. But I would rather probably do that is take the existing drawings. That would save us some money.
going with a different engineering or architecture firm, or continuing with the existing?
I would continue with the existing because they understand what we're looking for from a cost savings perspective. To start new, it would just take more time. So if you guys don't mind, that's something I'll bring up on Wednesday. Keep that going.
I've been here a little longer than Barb and probably most everybody else on the board.
Yeah.
I've gone through this process 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All 3 of those plans have collected dust. I'm a little concerned about another plan that never comes to fruition.
Yeah.
So I think whatever we do, we determine up front before we start the process that we can afford it.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason we're getting questioned by the community is they've been surveyed to death, okay?
Yes.
And the anticipation was that it was going to happen, and it didn't, and they really weren't even told that it didn't or wasn't going to. So I think whatever we do going forward, it needs to be mapped out a little better. The planning process maybe a little better and maybe more visible to the community.
Okay.
I'd be reluctant to survey the community again.
I mean, personally, I think we know what they want.
Yeah, we do.
I think we do.
No,
It's embedded in my brain.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Oh, yes.
but they see, Mark, they see all the building going on. They see that as a, increase in tax revenue, okay? They see the community growing in leaps and bounds, and they don't see the infrastructure other than Fairview Park, which has been great.
Yeah, thank you. It's been wonderful.
Okay. They don't see the support, of a community complex, whatever you want, call it whatever you want. And I just think we just have to be careful the next step that we take, that it's not into another deep, dark hole.
No, here's the thing. I understand, and I'm going to say this. I'm a straight shooter. This took precedence over that.
We know.
I know, and it's gorgeous, right? But it took precedence over that, and unfortunately, that was a big chunk of change. So we're, it's fighting an uphill battle because, just coming in 18 months ago, this was already done. If this
And
was
I-
6 years ago, we'd have a different conversation.
And I know that, the current commissioners are, trying to dig out of this hole. Okay, and it's not easy because the economy's changed drastically. The waste management issue, tax increase. They still tie everything with the township to the school in terms of taxes. You can't separate the two.
Has nothing to do with it.
And you'll never be able to.
Yeah.
No.
Okay? So I just say we need to be careful with the next step that we take and what we share with the community, and that we're sure that we can afford it and we can actually do it. And maybe that complex is a pole building, but whatever it is.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Again, I'm in business every day, and if people really want this thing, and it's going to be X number of dollars, okay, we have to pay for it. And this is how we're going to pay for it. And just present that to the community. If it's going to be X millage increase to pay for this, if 80% of our taxpayers want it, then we'll do it.
There isn't anything you can't do.
We can do anything, but
Okay.
not for a cost.
Because we fight the same battle at Lakemont Farms. There isn't anything we can't do at Lakemont Farms.
sure.
But there's a cost associated with everything that
It's
we
the
do.
pain. It's the
Okay.
cost of, yeah, it's the dollar.
So I don't know. Maybe that's an option. Maybe we ask the community.
This is what it's gonna cost, this is what, if we do this, this is what the increase is gonna be in millage. What do you want us to do? Because we'd be happy to build it. Happy to build it. I couldn't wait, personally. And I'm speaking for the commissioners.
I mean, in the surveys, the written comments, you'll see that they want to keep their money here in the township. They don't want to pay non-resident rates places. I think it's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That the support is there.
Support's there,
But how do you
right.
ask it? I don't know. But I think it needs to be a plan first with, and with also with, for the USDA loan, we can't even get an application. You need plans and you need a detailed budget. So it's the plans and us all getting on the same page is the most important step to then figure those things out.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think the first step is getting back with I'll talk with the commissioners. I think the first step is getting back with the architect. Say, okay, don't scrap it, but you guys have put a lot of work into this thing. Let's change it to this and try and figure out how to get the 13 million from 25. And see what they can do.
And I think that's a great approach.
See what they can do for
Don't
13
take this
million.
the wrong way, but I think that what our board really needs is a firm commitment from your board that they are committed to this concept of a recreational facility or whatever you want to call it. And I think if we have that feeling of we have total support, and then the adjustments will be made, and everybody, will have to conform to whatever money there is.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. And I still have mud on my face, and I'm embarrassed because the first month I came in here, I said, I can't wait. And it was actually it was probably last month that I was going to be up there with a shovel breaking ground on this facility, and I couldn't wait. If you guys remember that when we first came in. And I was elated for it, and all of us were. We were excited, but then once we started digging into the numbers and we got hit with a bill from Waste Management, we're like, oh no, we couldn't do it.
I mean, it's understandable. I totally get it, especially with the price tag of the other building, you know, so that's all understandable.
But yeah, so I mean, trust me. I mean, each commissioner has children. The township has. I mean, Chuck Lazzini started lacrosse at South Fayette, right? We all love sports. We love exercise, being outdoors, doing things with kids, and we understand there's a lot of kids in the township that have struggled because of fields and things to do. That is a major priority of ours. We just have to figure out how to do it financially. I mean, trust me, if we had the money, this thing would be started right now. 100%. We just, you know, it's our job also to be, you know, fiscally responsible as well as commissioners. So we got to.
I think to Ron's point is if once we get a plan, I think going more public and getting public input, not necessarily surveys, but like input on the plans and what it's going to look like. That's not really happened before, you know, so I think that'd be worthwhile. Like, you know, we did, you know, kind of put plans on the website, but nothing was really ever really promoted and shared to get that community support and community excitement to actually make, and I think to your point, Barb, you know, making sure that what's making this different is to really get it out there. Once we all agree and all can kind of get a concept and then we're all in support of it. Because I think that was what has been lacking every single time. It was kind of done, you know, just here internally, but not externally with the community along board. Like we know what they want, but we never really showed them, is this what you want? If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I have a question for the board. Is that, and this is something I've been thinking about, and I've actually been reaching out to the superintendent to set a meeting up with the school district, because there's some things we're doing in the township to help them, and about maybe some type of partnership it's a private-public partnership with the school. I know it's been done in other schools where I don't know whether or not they could help us with school funding for something like this, and we could do a partnership. Just thoughts on that?
We just need another pandemic. And all those,
Hold on,
and
we're
all
gonna
those
phone call.
federal funds
Yeah,
that
right.
went to the school district.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a big thermometer down at the Canes, okay, raising money for a community center.
Yeah.
You see it in other communities.
Yeah.
The community
Peters-
gets behind it.
Peters just did that with there's big splash pad concept, and there's been public forums, and you know, that's what we've been lacking.
No, it makes sense. I just know the school, as you know, the township and the school have kind of, I wouldn't say parted ways, but they've kind of have been doing their own thing, let's say, for various reasons. But we really have given them an olive branch to say, let's start working together. And there's some reasons why we're doing that. You know, slowing some things down in the township, which will really help them. Really focus on commercial, and we've now proven that. It's in law, all right? So I've been cold calling the superintendent, so.
Do you see some headway
Yeah.
being made?
I talked to I did talk with the finance manager, and I told him what we've done the last 2 months, and he's like, oh, wow, we didn't know that. So making some headway, yeah. So we're making headway. Our goal is to get just a simple meeting, have a cup of coffee with a few of them, just talk about what we're doing in the township, how we can work together for it's what's best for the kids and for the taxpayers. So we're excited about that future.
Playing on that, you could do what Chief Phoenix does and
Yeah,
have
coffee with the
community
commissioners
coffee
or
with the
something.
commissioners, yeah.
Just to talk about.
Like they came to our clubhouse, they go to other people's,
Yeah.
other HOAs.
Just make sure the coffee is not too hot. So throw it on us.
Well, that's the other thing that's happening. There's going to be a meeting of HOAs.
Okay. I did see that actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Are you involved? Are we involved in that? Yeah.
Is it like training, HOA training?
It's a
No,
forum.
it's just I think it's just to share information,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a good group to get input from.
Yeah. I'd be happy to come to that to speak.
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes just about their thoughts on Southfield Community Center.
I'm not sure who at the township's spearheading it. maybe nobody.
They're doing it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but they're gonna have it here, and so we're offering the space. And I think Andrea is gonna be attending kind of as like a mediator, but they're running it themselves. There's
they
gonna
are,
be
okay.
I don't remember the specific HOA that's kind of like, I think maybe. It's
Called
maybe,
HALF,
it
isn't it? HALF?
I think something like that, yeah.
He seems to be
Yeah.
doing it.
I guess one more question for you. As staff, what is needed of me? What is needed of the Parks and Rec Department? Like, what kind of information, what tasks? It was a full force and then it just kind of ended. So, what is needed from staff to make,
Just keep this thing going. Oh, I think the first thing is me to talk with the commissioners on Wednesday, and I can talk about this meeting and the thoughts I have and go from there. And then I think from there it's a plan, maybe a 2 or 3 year plan, to find out what the cost will be, and then once we know the cost, we can back in exactly what we need on an annual basis. It's the cost to build it, cost to run it, right? Estimated revenues, which I know we did on the previous one, but obviously it was higher. And then go from there. But I think grants will be very, very important. I mean, if we can get that USDA grant at 2 or 3%,
loan, yeah.
that is a game changer. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in interest that
Yes.
we don't have to pay.
And there's no limit.
There's no limit.
Wow.
It's us what our limit is.
What's the now with the changes with the administration? I mean, what's our chances on this thing if we did it? Is
Been
there an
around
average?
forever. I mean, they've never turned anyone down.
They haven't?
No.
It's just a certain amount of money you'll get, maybe.
So it's based on your borrowing limit, like what
Okay.
the township's borrowing limit is.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yep. So it's not like if you you get it or not. If you apply it, you get it. It's just the process you have to go in. They're required, like you have to have like plans, a budget. You have to have like your permits and all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty much guaranteed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you're locked through the pre-application period. If it goes down, you get that lower rate.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
And then it fixed, and that's that.
I think it was like 39, what is it? 390 months, or it was like 39 years or something, if I remember that correctly. But I also think the issue was that we were going to be at our borrowing capacity if we did that last one. That was I'm trying to think why, what
But
was our
now that
biggest
will be a
issue?
change because we raised taxes. So
Yes.
our borrowing limit has now gone up, correct?
It has gone up, and then if the cost of this is less, I think it gives us a good comfort level that if something would ever go wrong in the township, we have money to borrow if we need to. But I think with that situation, it was going to tap us out, which was scary.
Well, what we want from you is for you to help us get this train back on the track,
Okay.
okay? Working with the other commissioners. I think everybody wants it, just a matter of how we manage.
How do we go
to get it.
about
Yeah.
doing
And is
it?
it worthwhile? Is there wanting a specific steering committee for this that's more resident led than staff or Parks and Rec board led? That's what Upper St. Clair did. How they got it done. It was a resident.
Okay.
What they call it,
I'm taking notes.
ad hoc group.
Okay.
That's how they got theirs done. It was resident led. Not saying that you guys are not residents, but
Yeah.
we've
No,
we've been the
I'd
ones
rather have- I'd rather have it led.
doing it for all this time. That it's we had kind of a advisory committee. Like I know Ron, you were on it, like looking at the plans. But is it worthwhile to create something that's
Yeah, that's a great point. I do think it would
Resident.
I think it would get a lot more legs if you had some type of internal meaning, township residents, ad hoc committee, advisory committee, maybe someone from each HOA.
That's what Upper St.
That's
Clair
what I
did.
was thinking
I'm thinking
too.
that might be the,
I mean,
Yeah, Upper,
well, I guess,
Upper St. Clair, it was over.
careful what you wish for. How many HOAs do we have?
They had over 50, and that's what they also had one person from every HOA.
Correct.
So then you had an accurate representation of the township.
Okay, and then, so they would meet, let's say, once a month.
So they did, and they even went on tours.
Wow.
They got like Greyhound buses and toured them. Like
Yeah.
we don't necessarily have to do that, but yeah, that's what they did. And Upper St. Clair, they have said they've been willing to come and explain, talk to you and you guys on the process they went through. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think something like a steering committee could really help us
Agreed.
and keep it on the tracks. Because then, you know,
Holds us all accountable.
I was just gonna say from a county, it's from, yeah, it would make us accountable to each of those HOA teams to say, okay, board, what are you doing? Board, what are you doing? Board, what are you doing, right? To stay on top of us, which will force us to stay engaged as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we won't, but it would help.
So,
'Cause-
yeah, if that's something the board want, you know, I'd be happy to help facilitate that
Yeah.
and lead that, and if that's something, yeah.
I have
So
time
keep us-
tomorrow, I'll call John tomorrow, just discuss, you know, this, and I'll talk with Chuck as well.
Good.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Plan.
thanks.
Any other new business or open discussion?
I don't think so.
Okay, we can move to adjourn.
Second.
I second it.
6:54, next meeting, June 10th.
Yes.